Greetings all, I'm TheForeverDM and this is Flashbacks, a show where we take a walk down memory lane and revisit some of my favorite moments from past campaigns. We were going to take you right into the video, but today's video is actually brought to you by our first sponsor, Hidden Games. Hidden Games has been around since 2017 and has released about 20 unique games. Counting translations, that's about 100 total, and that means you have a good chance of being able to play in your own language. They're based in Germany and currently going through the painstaking process of translating their games into American English with a new release planned by the end of the year. I had never really heard of an escape room in a box, but it's definitely a really unique experience that reminds me a lot of those cool murder mysteries, along with a dose of Carmen Sandiego as you puzzle things out to reach your goal. They've even offered to additionally send me a free game for the team meeting that we're going to have so I can do an unboxing of their advent calendar game and play it with the team, so look forward to that. You can pick up their games from my special link below, which will take you to their Amazon store and let you know that you're not only supporting our channel, but also supporting the other people that make great games for everyone to enjoy. I hope you'll lend them your support, like I have. Yep, that's my hand creeping over toward a copy of the game I ordered myself. And enjoy some super cool sleuthing with friends, family, or even solo. Thank you again, Hidden Games, for being our first sponsor. It really means a lot to all of us. And now on to the video. Today's story follows a group known as The Last Resort. And this party actually was formed out of the original welcome party that I ran, which is something that we do on the Discord server that we run, where supporters get a custom adventure written for them, and all get bundled together into a group to run through a first through third level adventure. Run by me, TheForeverDM. So it's a lot of fun. This group involves Fayfire Pedros, their Bard, Esmeralda Firewalker, a multi-class Paladin Warlock, Kitre Bottleforge, a Artificer, Bastion Falconwrath, a Master of Multi-classing with his Fighter, Rogue, and Cleric, Myran Birchmire, their Tiefling Sorceress, and Brise de Ira Moonstar, a Paladin, occasionally. She's had some troubles, but we won't get into that. This group has been jumping into the adventure known as Storm King's Thunder. And though there are some shenanigans, because Storm King's Thunder has technically been run in my world, it has so far been a lot of fun running it again, and having a little bit of time travel oddness going on. Everybody either grins or rolls their eyes when they hear about time travel in one of the games, because sometimes it can be really difficult to pull off or is used to undo something great or terrible. But I think that it's a little bit of dash of it here and there can actually lead to a lot of fun, especially when you use some multiversal weirdness in there. So, they've been running through Storm King's Thunder, and they have gotten to the point where the last of the towns that they went to, Bryn Shander, was assaulted by frost giants, who were laying siege to it in order to try and acquire the Ring of Winter from Artus Cimber. The party was able to successfully defend Artus Cimber's relative, who was there, and drive off the frost giants. But as part of all of the things in Storm King's Thunder, spoiler alert for those of you who haven't played it, but I mean, it's on the tin. You know, this is where we're going. At the completion of one of these defenses, you get a series of side quests from the people who helped you to fight off the giants, because you actually get 6 different NPCs who will jump into the fight, some of which are very combat capable, and some of which are people who are not, and you may have to defend, or are just brave enough and silly enough to throw themselves at the giant. So it was pretty cool. Sheriff Markham Southwell of Bryn Shander has decided that the party could actually assist him by going and doing a quick patrol around the area outside of Bryn Shander to see if there are any more frost giants, because they didn't expect a group of frost giants to just jump in and start laying siege to the place. So it's the 29th of Myrtul, and the party is traveling around Bryn Shander looking for frost giants, and while they are traveling through the snow and permafrost, they see a white dragon flying in the sky. Well, Fayfire asks Bastion, who is a aspiring pirate, He wears many hats, as I mentioned, for his spyglass, and he takes the spyglass, looks up there, and he nat ones his perception check. So I already had rolled what the encounter was going to be, and so this just made it absolutely perfect. He looks up at the spyglass, bricks his perception check, and I'm like, okay, well, light glints off the spyglass and into the dragon's eye, and the dragon's like, oh, there's something interesting down there. And so the dragon wheels over, and what descends from the heavens but Iceclaws herself, Arviatarasa, with the skeletal figure frozen on her back like some spellcasting lich and everything. Well, seeing this dragon only get larger and larger and larger as it descends, most of the party outright flees. They're not stupid. They don't think they're going to take on this dragon. They're not one of those groups that's like, oh yeah, well, he wouldn't throw it at us if we couldn't fight it. Well, sorry, that's not the kind of DM I am. Sometimes you're expected to flee. Well, Myran spazzes out because of something in her background, which I won't give away because it's still a secret. She is terrified of dragons. And actually has a little bit of a hard time even fleeing because she's so panicked. Plays it out really well. Brise, Esme, and Kitre all ride off and follow Myran into a icy overhang to hide. Feyfire and Bastion stay behind. Feyfire, because he felt that he could prevent the destruction from following his companions, and Bastion, because he's not going to leave his brother in arms behind. You'll see why that's funny in a minute. So, Arviatarasa is a very interesting character, for those of you who don't know about her. She is the white wyrm known as Iceclaws, who makes her home in the Ice Peak and the Sea of Moving Ice. She is an ancient white dragon who is more intelligent and patient than most others, and actually used to have a very good friend, and at one point even mate, in this human who is now a frozen corpse on her back. The human was Melthorond, and he was a wizard. And Arviatarasa hates wizards. She had a back and forth with him for a little while, and then a rapport grew, and then eventually he was actually riding around on her back, using her like a mount, until he eventually died. And when he died, he was just kind of frozen there, and she left him there. His bones are enchanted so that as she looks around, even though he's just a corpse, he's not a lich, he's not a ghoul, he's not an animated skeleton, but as she looks around, his head turns to follow where she's looking, and she will talk to him and converse with him as if he's still alive. It's almost like I can hear his voice. And she's a little out there. I mean, she's an ancient dragon. She's allowed her, senior moment. And she has lots of them. Who's gonna tell her, right? Not me. And not any of them either. But she is, of course, a white dragon. And at the core, white dragons are evil creatures. Some of them stray, just like all of D&D. There is a wide spread, but as a rule, they're generally they're the nearly feral kind of dragons. They believe very much in the law of tooth and claw. Take what you can. It is all yours if you can seize it, and if it's not yours, you shouldn't have it. So, she soars down, and she sees 4 of these adventurers scampering off to go hide, and then 2 just standing there. They didn't flee from her great majesty as it descended from the clouds. And of course, Feyfire thinks that he is doing this great thing to try and prevent his allies from being hurt. But that's not what's in her mind. In her mind is the first thing that she asks them, as she stalls her wings and hovers 40 feet in the air above them. Why would you not run when you should run? And so Fayfire tells her that he thinks he thought he was dead the moment she came down. Bastion chooses to stay silent because he doesn't actually speak Draconic. He doesn't speak her language. When Fayfire says during their conversation, with all due respect, Arvia Terrasa starts waxing philosophically on whether or not such creatures can even give a proper amount of respect, as she has met so few that can. And she turns and starts speaking with Meltheron's corpse. And I'm running this in Foundry, so on the right-hand side, the text chat is just going nuts as all the other characters are talking. And some of them are trying to confront Myran, who is just freaking out. She is sure that everyone's going to die. They're all going to be torn apart. Others are watching as the situation is like a slow-motion train wreck. And it's spiraling out of control due to the wicked bent of this evil dragoness. Bastion and Fayfire talk to one another as she consults with Meltheron's corpse, considering if they could show more respect as after she has torn off a limb. Well, Fayfire, hearing that, jumps in and is like, well, hold on. And so she poses him a dire question, whipping her massive head back around and fixing her icy cold gaze on him. She says, I could take the top one. It is rather noisy. And as her eyes narrow and her fin quivers slightly atop her head, she says, is your head a limb, or is your body? And that seems to send a little bit of a chill through everyone. Some of them are going, it's going to be okay. They're going to talk their way out of it. They're going to do something. And so Fayfire is like, okay, dragons. I'm a bard. I'm dealing with dragons. And thankfully, he chose not to do the common thing and try to seduce the dragon, which would have immediately ended in his death. But instead, bribery. Yes, the perfect goal. But as he starts talking about bribing her with items, he starts mentioning giants. And that he is a spellcaster. And she hates spellcasters. So, she backhands him with her claw, bloodying him and sending him flying into the snow. And when he doesn't expand in size, she decisively states that he was likely not a giant and concentrating on a spell to keep himself small. But when Bastion fails to do anything to assist him, just standing there frozen in dragon fear, she seems confused, asking if his companion doesn't wish to protect him. And Fayfire makes some quip about how this is just his luck, and it doesn't really help diffuse the situation. So, raising her claws, she pins Bastion to the ground, shoving him into the snow so that only his head and an arm are sticking out of it. Bastion fails to try and struggle or free, just letting things continue because he's thinking still that he's just going to make things worse. And unfortunately, him not doing that makes things worse. Arvia Terrasa says, it doesn't flee, it doesn't struggle. No, Bard, I think I was right. It is stupid. Arvia Terrasa asks if Bastion is useful to Fayfire, and he replies, he is like a brother to me. And so she's pleased that despite the trinkets that he was offering, she has actually found something of value. So she wraps one of her claws around Bastion's arm and, with a twist, wrenches his shoulder free of its socket, causing him to begin screaming and writhing in the snow. Fayfire attempts to intervene, coming to heal his friend and try and stabilize him, and receives a swat with her tail for his troubles, as he is told to not interrupt. And Arvia Terrasa watches for a few moments with interest as Bastion's blood sprays upon the icy ground, some melting the snow, but other droplets merely streaking and joining the permafrost. That tribute will do, she says, tossing Bastion's severed arm up to catch it in her mouth, and then turning to take off into the sky, soaring away and leaving the pair to pick up the pieces. At least the pieces they still have ownership of. The whole party is stunned for a moment as they realize that it was no bluff. No brush with a dangerous creature that they would come out of with a warning or a fun tale. Instead, they listen as I describe how he and his companions rush to heal his wounds before he bleeds out. There's a concave dip where his shoulder used to be, and now his head tilts slightly to one side a little more, as he didn't realize how much his shoulder did for his body until he no longer has one of them. For someone who's primarily an archer, this is going to be a problem. You can only hold one object at a time. You cannot wield anything with the two-handed property. And, eating is slower. So, it was still good fun. It wasn't like this, devastated everybody, but it was definitely okay, the realms are not fucking around. Because sometimes they don't. I think it was a fun way to make actual consequences that made for some really good roleplay. I plan on them running back into her at some point too, and I really can't wait for that day to happen. That is going to be an interesting one indeed. And I suppose we'll see if she goes for a matching set. Thank you for watching, and thanks to our wonderful supporters that make up our little community, watching us stream the best available and everything else you see on this channel live to our supporter-only Discord. It's quite active in there, with many playing in these games or others, and even running their own. This channel wouldn't exist without each and every one of you, which is why I read each and every name against my crying editor's wishes, starting with those in the power tier. Dark Sarah, Darth Cavalier, Doodle Poodle, Emanon, Jay Jones, John the Wicked, Joshua Williams, Sneaky GI, Stephen W. Jumper, and the Traveling Bard Extraordinaire. In the planar tier, Ice Commander, Ice Dragon, Sparkle Lord the Fabulous, and Tyler McAllister. In the adventurer tier, All's Fiction, Bastion Falconwrath, Biz Adrian, Dragon Tempest, John R300, Justin, Katie, Mystics, Rosala Streaming Network, Ty Korzak, and V. In the Quest Giver tier, Breezebender, Chiana, Chris Householder, Cold Brad, Dark Sarah, Devil Crin, Jack Smythe, Jesse Labrie, Kyla, Kitten, Link FD, Lunatic Overlord, Mitsuya VA, Night Archer, ODST Hero, PPNTT 807, Robert Edwards, Robert Mischief, Rio 1990, Sephiroth Kurosame, Sin for You, Y87, and Zaharlangan. And in the Townsfolk tier, Adrian, Blizzard Hawk, Brett Bemis, Clockwork, Dylan Taylor, Doodle Poodle, Enrique, Ginseng 3, Gut McBuster, Gordy Danky, Kazuko, Carrie Edie, Lone Soul 6, Love Bites Back, Mordant Dragon, Philip, Sense Backpack, Sergeant Humpty, Sherlock, Shugenja, Stalking, Tom Brazo, and Zanair. And that's all I've got for you guys. So thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I will see you in the next one. Good night, all.